Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Lynn.
How's everyone today?
Good, thank you.
Fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Don't forget to sign in. Okay, so today we're going to continue with I Have a Dream by Dr. Martin Luther King. And you had a sheet to fill out about argument. Let me just remind you that an argument takes a position on an issue or problem and provides support for this position that appeals strictly to reason. The writer's position is referred to as the claim, and the support for this position may be reasons, evidence, or both. So in each box, you were to write one example of racial injustice that King uses as support for his claim that African Americans are not free. All right. Nora, give me your 3 reasons.
Okay. The first one second. First one
Yes.
is the Negro still lives in poverty through America, although
Okay.
America is a wealthy country.
Okay. What else?
Number 2, the Negro is treated with injustice by most white people, including police, who killed them frequently.
Okay.
Number 3, Negro cannot stay in the motels of the highways or the hotels of the city.
Okay. Thank you, Nora. All right, Adam, would you give me your 3, please?
Miss, what if I wrote one reason and I got 3 evidences for it?
I'm sorry.
I wrote one reason and I got 3 pieces of evidence for it.
Okay, give me your evidence.
I wrote that African Americans or Black people suffer of more economic injustice from white people. This is my reason.
Okay. All right, Abdallah, give me your 3. Abdallah, can you hear me? Abu Talib, would you give me your 3, please?
Okay, Miss. No voting rights in places like Mississippi.
Okay, good. Remember, he said there's no voting in Mississippi and nothing to vote for in New York. All right, what else you got?
Miss, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Police brutality. Hotels are not allowed for blacks.
Right. No lodging and hotels and motels. Okay. One more.
Um, segregations of public spaces and liberties.
Exactly. They were segregated. Remember, they were separated from the white people. They couldn't go in and eat in the same restaurants. They couldn't sit by in the white part of buses or public transportation. They had to go and sit all the way in the back. Remember the story about Rosa Parks? Okay. Thank you, Abdul Rahman. Hannah, what did you have?
I wrote also about police brutality. I wrote about the ghettos and the only white sign.
Okay. Faramala, what do you have?
I wrote the same, that they were the victims of police brutality and that they cannot vote, and about the ghettos and hotels.
Okay. All right. Good answers. All of you were correct. You could also add, excuse me, you could also add the part about jail cells. Remember how many Black people were put in jail during this time? Many of them were sent to jail for no reason at all, only because they tried to stand up for their rights and get the freedom that was owed to them. Okay. Before I forget, today's assignment, you had to do I put on the schedule the guided reading sheet. This is divided up into 3 parts. All you have to do today is part 1 of the guided reading sheet. I put a message on Facebook, but I was afraid maybe some of you wouldn't see it. So remember, for the guided reading sheet today, you only have to do part 1. Okay. All right, I want you, let's go in your books to page 608 while we have some extra time. And let's go over the comprehension and the critical analysis. Some of this we just covered. Page 608. The first question in comprehension says, it's what examples of racial injustice does King describe? We basically just answer that. Things such as police brutality, segregation, the ghettos, the inequalities in voting, excuse me, things that we just named, okay? Number 2, what does King predict will happen if justice is denied African Americans? Now think about this for a second. What did he predict would happen if justice was denied to African Americans? Anyone have any idea on this? Did he say that they would give up?
No.
No, he said they won't give up until their civil rights are served.
Right. He predicted that the struggle for civil rights will continue and disturbing the very foundation of the country. They would never give up. They would continue to march forward and never step backwards. Okay. Number 3, summarize in your own words, what is King's dream or vision in this speech? What was his dream or his vision? No one can answer. Adam.
He deems that all African Americans get their rights served and all children, black and white, could sit together and play with no racism. Um, and that everyone would get equal civil rights and there would be no more police
Right.
brutality or segregation, and that African Americans will not feel that they are in exile.
Correct. Afan, do you have anything to add?
No, miss. You
Okay.
covered everything.
His vision was of an America where all people would live in brotherhood, okay? All people had the right to justice and freedom. All right, the next question. Well, we've already done this, analyze the argument. You gave three examples of evidence, okay? Let's go to number 5 question. Understand rhetorical devices. You should have made a chart. So here it says, review the chart that you created as you read. Then identify an example of repetition or parallelism and explain the effect that it creates. Farah, can you answer? Farah Malo? Jana Gooda?
Yes, Miss Lynn.
Can you answer?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, identify an example of repetition or parallelism and explain the effect that it created in the speech.
I can't answer. I
Okay,
don't
can
know.
anyone answer this question?
Miss Lynn, I'm
Can
sorry,
I
I
answer?
couldn't open my mic. I'm Farah Mahlab.
Okay, go ahead, Farah.
Yeah, for the repetition, he repeated several times that I have a dream, and that emphasizes on he's not gonna give up on his dream for equal rights for both Black people and white people.
Exactly. Okay, can anyone give me an example of parallelism? Adam?
I don't know.
Okay. An example of parallelism in the speech would be when Dr. King says, there is no time. Now is the time. Okay, this parallel structure sets up a contrast that stresses the urgency of the situation. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
Hannah, did you have a question?
No, I wanted to answer.
Oh, okay. Do you have another example that we didn't say?
Yes, about parallelism.
Okay.
He says, we cannot walk alone and we cannot turn back. Here he is emphasizing that they are all in. They are one hand. They are as if they were one person. They should be like they shouldn't be separated. Blacks shouldn't give up on their dream, like because like some blacks were like were hopeless and like they lost all their hope and motivation uh, um, to fight for their lives and their rights. So he says like we cannot walk alone, we cannot turn back.
Yes, good answer. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, number 6, we've already discussed this and Offord has answered this question several times. Just please make sure that you understand it. In lines 14 through 28, in these paragraphs, King uses an analogy to compare a familiar object, which was a promissory note, to something abstract, okay? The promise of equal rights. What does King mean when he says that America has given African Americans a bad check? And explain. Offord, would you tell us that, please? What did he mean when he said that America has given African Americans a bad check?
It was a metaphor that meant that They give them a promise that they will get their security of justice and freedom, but they didn't actually pay the check or kept their promise.
Exactly. And where was this promise given? Often. If I wanted to find this promise, where would I look?
The Declaration of Independence and the
Yes, exactly.
Constitution.
The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Okay, thank you, Alfred. Number 7, evaluate an allusion. Reread lines 81 through 85. An allusion is an indirect reference within a work to something that the audience or reader is expected to know. As King begins to explain his vision, he alludes to the Declaration of Independence, quoting its famous lines. How effective is this allusion? And you need to support your answer with evidence from the speech. In his speech, he explains his vision. And when doing so, he alludes to the Declaration of Independence. How effective is this? Anyone want to try? Okay, this allusion is effective because the Declaration of Independence is familiar to every American, okay? Furthermore, King alludes to the document in lines 14 through 20 when he discusses how America has failed to keep its promise to African Americans. By quoting it again now, he is saying that the failure can be rectified or the failure can be corrected, okay? Hannah,
Yes, Muslim.
did you have something you wanted to say, baby?
No, when you said if I want, like someone wanted to try, and
Oh, okay,
I
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was a little late.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. I was the one that's late. Sorry.
Okay, now I want us to read the reading and writing connection. First of all, let me tell you as a class, if you would like to work with a partner online, not in person, to do the writing prompt, you can choose a partner, but please send me who your partner will be, okay? All right, so how would you account for the extraordinary acclaim King's speech has received? It's one of the most famous speeches in the world, not only when it was first delivered, but many years later, until this day, okay? You need to write a 3 to 5 paragraph analysis of the effectiveness of King's address. Consider both the strength of its logic and its emotional power. Remember, this speech is also one of the most emotional speeches that you will probably ever listen to, okay? So does everyone understand what they do? The self-check, if you see in this little box, a strong analysis will first state the qualities that make the speech memorable. And second, you should provide examples from the speech. Okay, any questions on this? And I'll put this on SMS. You can have until like Sunday to do it, or maybe even Monday, okay? But I just want to make sure everyone understands what you're supposed to do. Are there any questions? Okay, Afet Hossein, tell me again what you need to do for the writing prompt. I need everyone to unmute themselves. I do not have anyone muted. I'm deducting points. When I call your name and you don't answer me, you're losing lots of points and lots. I say this to the same students over and over. Abu Talib, are you unmuted? Abdullah, are you unmuted?
Yes, miss.
Stay unmuted. I call on
Okay.
you to answer questions and I get nothing from you. I don't want to hear that I have you muted because I do not. No one else in the class has this problem. There's only 3 in the entire class. All right, Afid Hossam, can you hear me? Abdullah, explain to me what you need to do for the
Yes, miss.
writing prompt.
Miss,
Yes.
here's my name.
Is this Afid?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what you need to do for the writing prompt that I just explained to the class. Abdullah, can you explain?
Me? Okay, 1 second.
Abdul Rahman Abu Talib, can you explain?
Miss, it's we have to like how we would account for the part at the bottom of the page.
Yes, the reading, writing
paragraph
connection. What
Yes.
what did I tell you to do?
To write the analysis with the partner.
Okay. All right, good.
3
You
to
can
5
choose a partner.
paragraphs.
And how long does it have to be? I'm sorry.
3 to 5 paragraphs.
Yes. And you notice in the little box, Abdullah, next to it, there are 2 things specifically that you need to include. Don't forget about that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, excuse me, Miss Lynn.
Go ahead, bud.
Is it compulsory to have a partner?
No, you do not have to have a partner.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. If you would like to work alone, no problem at all. If you would like a partner, that's okay too. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, are there any questions? Sama,
Yes, Miss Lynn.
you have a question,
I
baby?
want to know, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. What should we write an analysis for?
Okay, you see in the little box it says, how, excuse me, how would you account or explain the extraordinary acclaim that King's Speech has received? Why is it still so popular today? You understand? Not only when it was first delivered, not just during that time, but also many years later, including today. Okay? So you're going to write a 3 to 5 paragraph analysis of the effectiveness. You're going to explain how effective, in what ways was the speech effective, okay? Consider both the strength of its logic, common sense, and its emotional power. Does everyone understand what emotional power is? Remember, on some of the rhetorical devices, there's one particular that plays on people's emotions. You might want to review your rhetorical devices again. You remember there's pathos, logos, ethos. So you might want to choose one of those to help you write your paragraphs. It may help you a lot, okay? You need to check and see. And then, Sammy, you want to make sure in the little box next to it, the 2 things that you definitely should include, you should state the qualities that make the speech so memorable. to this day. You understand? And then you're going to give examples from the speech. You understand, Sama?
Yes, Miss Lynn.
Okay.
Miss, I have another question.
Okay, sure, baby.
Can we be only 2 partners or it can be 3?
2. Because it's only 3 to 5 paragraphs, Sama.
Okay.
If it was a longer paper that you were writing, I would consider a third person, but it's only 3 to 5 paragraphs, okay? And you're just going to give your analysis of why this speech is still so powerful until today, after so many years ago, okay? You're going to explain the emotion that he used in the speech and tell how effective that was. Hannah, you have a question?
Yes, Miss. Is it handwritten or typed?
I would rather for you to type anything like this instead of
Okay.
handwriting it.
We will type it as an essay?
Yeah, kind of like an essay. You're doing an analysis, okay?
Okay.
Anytime you do, an essay is not the only thing that you type. Yes, of course, it has to be typed if you're doing an essay. But if you're analyzing literature or anything like that, you should always type it. That way you never have to worry about losing marks for handwriting. Because in English, if the teacher cannot read your handwriting, you lose marks. And I don't want to see you lose marks for handwriting. So I just think it's safer if everyone types it. And that way you won't have that problem. What other questions do you have?
I had a question.
Okay.
When this analysis do?
Probably Monday, Yusuf. I'll put it in
Monday?
SMS so everyone knows, but right now I'm going to say Monday. You don't have school or classes, I should say, on Thursday. And I don't want you to spend your day doing that. And then you have your weekend. So we'll say Monday, okay?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lynn.
You're welcome. What other questions you have? Remember, for example, in the speech, some of the emotional statements that he uses, for example, when he talks about his own 4 little children, anytime you hear of little children, that evokes an emotional response. You understand what I'm saying? If you hear the words little children or old people, does everyone understand this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What other things can you think of that he uses in his speech that stirs up emotions? Come on, guys. We've read the speech several times. Hannah?
When King said that he have a dream and he want to make his dream true.
Yes, and when you're reading the speech, especially after you read it a couple of times, it makes you also want to jump in and join his dream. Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
It makes you stop and think. At first you say, gee, I didn't know things were really that bad, even today. Excuse me. So after you read it several times, you start having sympathy for the Black people. And you get a good look at what their life was really like. What else? What about when he alludes to the Bible, okay? Anytime that religion, no matter which religion it is brought into something that conjures or stirs up your emotions. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
When you think about God, you immediately change your tone. You even change your body language, okay? You become more humble. So he uses religion a lot because remember, I explained to you that he was also a minister from a church at a church. Hannah, you have something to say?
I wanted to give an example also.
Go ahead.
When he lists the racial injustices, he's gaining the power of the people, because like when he lists the injustice that black people had to suffer, we say like, why would they do this? And like he makes us want to also like be on his side.
You're
Like
exactly right.
no human should ever go through that stuff, no matter how like we didn't choose to be born this way. We were born like it's just a skin tone, so we want
Yes,
to be on his side.
that's true. That's a great point. And I want to
Thank
remind
you.
you that even though this took place in America, this goes on around the world in every country, every city, every little village, every little village. Does everyone understand this?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
not just with African Americans and the injustices that they went through and are still going through. This happens all over the world. It may not be about the color of someone's skin. It may be their religion, right? It may be their
Yes.
nationality. It can be any one of those things, okay? But Hannah, you brought up a great point. The power anywhere is in the people. Nothing is more powerful than the people. Only people can bring about change. And you have to be willing to want change before you can act. And in order to act or even be willing to bring about change, you have to truly understand what the problem is. You know, right now in America, especially this past year, they have this Black movement going on and many things that affect the African American community. Will things change? I'm sure some of them will. But I also know that it still will not bring about the changes that African Americans or anyone else in that country should have. People will always have racism. They will always treat certain people of color, nationalities, no matter what, different than they are. It doesn't matter wherever you go in that country or any other country. Does anyone have anything else to add? Can you think of an example of racism in your own country? Nothing? Come on, guys, your country's not perfect. I see racism every day. Hannah.
There is.
When the corona broke out, when like people here in Egypt were racist towards the Chinese the Chinese visitors.
Yes, that's
And
one example. That's right. What other racism do you see in your daily lives here?
Racism to Jews or people that's not
Good
Muslims.
point, Ahmed. Good point, Ahmed. Thank you for that. What else? Can anyone think of anything else? What about, go ahead, Hannah.
The when you're like from like when you're like city bred, but like they bully the ones from South Egypt.
Yes, like villages and places like
Yes.
that. What about classes of people?
I was going to say this.
Good, Hannah. Go ahead.
There is a racism between the social classes of people. Rich people, they are like doing bad things to poor people, but why poor people are born like that, so this will not change.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Hannah, and thank you so much for that. I see this every day. This is one of my big complaints. I see this every day, okay? Just because you were born poor and you're not in the class that everyone thinks you should be, this is no reason to ever mistreat these people, call them names, talk to them like they are below you. They are people that are on the same level as you. God made these people just like they made the rest of us. He made the rest of us. Does everyone understand this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, can anyone think of anything else? I'm going to give you a choice since we've had this little conversation. For the writing prompt, you can either follow the prompts in the book, or you may choose to write a 3 to 5 paragraph of some type of racism that you see and know in your country. And what would you do to, or what do you think people should do to bring about change for this? What are some of the things that you could do? Does everyone understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, Hannah, your point would be a great point to write on, I think. The class of people. Ahmed, you also had an excellent point right there, okay? It doesn't mean that, you might not love some people, but you have to love them for the sake of they're your brothers. They are your God-given brothers, okay? You may not, but most of the time you don't even personally know these people. Like right now, we're speaking about African Americans. Unless you know an African American or Americans, then you probably have a more difficult time understanding how they were and are treated, okay? Especially if you come from Southern states. And I told you, my state, even though I am ashamed to admit it, is one of the worst states for racism until now. They are some mean, nasty, ugly people. You cannot believe what spews out of their mouths and the things that they do, okay? So I'll give you the choice. You can either use the writing prompt in the book, or you can choose your own problem as far as racism is concerned and write a 3 to 5 paragraph on that, okay? The only difference is you would still need to kind of follow the guidelines that's in the book. For example, state the qualities that make the speech memorable. You could state the qualities that stand out about racism in your life or what you have seen, okay? Provide examples from the speech. You can provide examples of what you have seen with your own eyes or even heard. Any racism that you have witnessed yourself.